questions about Iceland. Let's go. Hey everyone, it's Guðni here from Wake Up Reykjavík, and today I'm going to be answering the internet's burning questions about Iceland. So if you're watching this video, maybe you're thinking about visiting Iceland. Perhaps you're just curious about Iceland in general. Or when you were a kid, maybe you watched the Mighty Ducks 2, and you're thinking to yourself, is Iceland really a country? Yes, it is. It's a country. I live here. So to help you and your curiosities about Iceland, I gathered the top 10 most frequently Googled questions about Iceland, and I'm going to be answering them. Now, as a native, I really hope I know these questions. If not, we'll get to know them together. So sit back, relax, and let's get to answering. Alright, question number 1. Does Iceland have an army? Great question. No, Iceland doesn't have an army. We've never had an army, and hopefully we never will. The closest thing we have here to an army is maybe our Coast Guard. They have 4 ships and 4 helicopters. And that's done the trick so far. But a fun fact, although we don't have an army, and we've never had an army, we've actually fought in one war. It was the Cod Wars, and we actually fought the UK. They were fishing in our waters, we did not like that, so we went out in sea and we fought them. And you know what, guys? We won. So for a nation with no army, we have a 100% success rate at winning wars. Pretty impressive. Question number 2. Does Iceland use euros? No, we don't. We're not in the EU and we don't use euros. Here in Iceland, we actually have our own currency called krónan, and we're the second smallest nation in the world to have its own currency. We got our own currency when we received autonomy from Denmark in 1918. But when you come to Iceland, we pretty much accept cards everywhere, and nowadays many places will also accept US dollars. So you'll be fine with just a card. Question number 3. What could be next, you guys? Oh, oops. Does Iceland have a McDonald's? No, we don't. We used to have one, but it shut down in 2009. But McDonald's has their own regulations where you have to import a lot of the stuff that they use there for the restaurants. And when Iceland had its financial collapse in 2008, the prices of importing these things skyrocketed. So when it came down to it, it was just too expensive to run them here. And another fun fact, the last McDonald's burger ever purchased here in Iceland is still out on display. It was purchased on the 13th of October 2009, and it has been on display in the National Museum of Iceland, in a lot of bars and cafes around the island, and now it's located on a hostel in the south coast of Iceland. And the disturbing thing is, it still looks pretty decent. 14 years later. Yeah. On to number 4. More questions. Does Iceland have Uber? No, we don't. I wish, but we don't. So when you come to Iceland, the only way to get around is pretty much the public bus system or grabbing a taxi. We do have a company called Hop that's been experimenting with a taxi service similar to Uber. It's pretty much just okay. And the last one on this board, number 5. Let's see what we get. Does Iceland have polar bears? No, we don't. At least not native ones. We get the occasional drifter from Greenland when sea ice breaks off from the islands. Ever since our settlement here, we have had 600 recorded polar bear sightings, which would be terrifying if they were all to show up at once. Another fun fact, an Icelandic comedian called Jón Gnarr, who was also a Reykjavík mayoral candidate, made it his policy that if he were to win the mayoral election, he would bring a polar bear into the Reykjavík Zoo. He won. He did not bring the polar bear, which I think in the end was good for everyone. On to number 6. Is Icelandic hard to learn? Yes, it is.
Even showing folks the name doesn't necessarily help. La Joe Cule. I don't know.
Super hard, and it's been ranked as one of the hardest languages in the world to learn numerous times. So Icelandic is a German dialect in the root and derives from Old Norse, which is what the Vikings used to speak. Our old texts from the settlement era are actually not too far off from Old English. I could still read old texts today and understand them somewhat. Emphasis on the somewhat. How we pronounce our words and how they phonetically sound is completely different than any other language, which makes it so hard to learn. So how we refer to something as this or that in Icelandic is way more complicated than it needs to be, in my opinion. And here's a photo showing how we do that. Why all these words? I don't get it. Super complicated. And the longest word in the Icelandic language, you might ask. Well, I have it for you. It is Vaðla heiða vega vinnu verkfæra geymslu lykla skúrs lykla kipur hringurinn. Of course. And this is grammatically correct. Vaðla heiða vega vinnu verkfæra geymslu lykla kipur hringurinn. It's a mouthful, to say the least. Getting to lucky number 7. What is Icelandic food? A great question. Generally speaking, seafood and lamb. Icelandic food, historically speaking, is horrible.
The rotten shark that's been rotting.
Back in the settlement era, people had to eat to survive. So we had to rely on preserving our foods. And that is why old Icelandic food, traditionally speaking, is really soured, cured, fermented and smoked to make it last throughout our harsh winters. But nowadays, we don't have to eat to survive, and we have learned to use the harsh elements to our advantage. For example, by harvesting green energy. We use that to power our greenhouses that we can operate all year round and grow vegetables, fruits even. Today, Icelandic cuisine is considered world-class cuisine. We have the freshest seafood there is. We have beautiful free-roaming lamb, and of course fresh vegetables with our greenhouses. So when you come to Iceland, be sure to join our Reykjavik food walk to get a taste of Iceland. We mostly focus on the delicious side of Iceland. Maybe we throw something fermented in there, if you dare. And if you come to Iceland and you join our Reykjavik food walk, be sure to use the promo code SUBSCRIBER, because you watched this video, you liked it, and you subscribed. I will also link all the information about the tour and the promo code down in the description here below. So I'll see you there. And 8 we go. Can Iceland speak English? I can speak English, can you? So it is mandatory here in Iceland to learn English in school. I personally started learning it when I was in the 5th grade, but nowadays we teach it as young as in kindergarten. Additionally, since we're such a small nation, we don't really dub a lot of our TV and media. So when growing up here in Iceland, you will consume a lot of media in English, read Icelandic subtitles, and kind of link the two. So everyone here in Iceland is definitely bilingual. So number 9. Do Icelanders believe in elves? Yes and no. You see a lot of clickbait news articles that everyone in Iceland believes in elves. A survey from 2022 showed that 31% of Icelanders still actively believe in elves. And funny enough, that same survey showed that 54% of the population believed in God. My grandmother wholeheartedly believed in elves. And when I was a kid, I would not be allowed to play in a specific part of the garden because she didn't want me disturbing the elves. It's pretty sad. I wanted to play there. And we also have many elf stones, as we call it here in Iceland, scattered around the islands. And they have even impacted construction here. So yeah, yes and no. And the last one, number 10. Does Iceland have a prison? Yes, we do. But we have one of the lowest crime and incarceration rates in the world. As of this year, we have about 130 people actively in prison, and we have 5 prisons operating around the islands. Iceland has numerous times been ranked as the safest country in the world. And that's 10! Woohoo! We did it! Oh! It's a wrap! And there you have it, the answers to the top most commonly Googled questions about Iceland. If you enjoyed exploring these questions with me, be sure to give this video a thumbs up. If you have any more questions for me, please write them down here below. I might make a whole new video where I answer the most commonly commented questions. And that might be yours. Please become a subscriber because your support means the world to us here at Wake Up Reykjavik. If you become a subscriber, you won't miss out on any of our upcoming videos focusing on everything Iceland related. Thanks for watching and goodbye from Iceland.